When I look up, she's pinned me with her sharp blue eyes. I feel exposed, like she can see right through my confident facade to my quavering, disappointed, and semi-depressed core. But she can't, of course. I'm telling myself stories, and I'm done with those, aren't I? Done with making things up? Hello friends, welcome to the Ear Fairy Tales. My name is Letty, and today we are going to do my September wrap-up. Yes, I'm getting caught up. I'm going to be able to do my October wrap-up next week, so very excited for that. In September, I read 10 books, totaling 2,006 pages, averaging about 67 pages a day, so not my 100-page-a-day goal, but that's alright because I read some really good books. Actually, I have 4 5 stars, and 3 are all-time favorites. I read a few different formats. I read short stories, novellas, and novels, and I even have a novella that was illustrated. And I read different genres: horror, thriller, classics, a retelling or inspired by a classic, as well as an animal attack survival kind of thriller. So I'll go ahead and do my wrap-up like I usually do, least favorite to most favorite. I didn't have any DNF, so I finished all the books that I started. I have a few 3 stars, a 4 star, 4.5, and 4 5 stars, including a few all-time favorites. Alright, and number 10 in the least favorite slot is definitely The Stranger Upstairs by Lisa M. Matlin. Now, unfortunately, I was disappointed by this. In this, we have a horrible main character who ropes her loser husband into buying this murder house, and she's really big on social media, and she thinks that she's gonna get a really big following, make a lot of money on this. Well, things end up being kind of weird in the house, and she's like paranoid. There's a problem with the neighbors. She starts seeing and hearing really different weird things. Now this character is so unlikable. Like, if you like unlikable characters, this is it right here, because she's a liar, a thief, a cheat, a con artist, a scammer, a fraud. The only one redeeming quality this lady had was that she wasn't cruel to their cat. If she had been mean to that cat, man, I would have not finished reading this, that's for sure. And along with the drama with the neighbors, there's also like something weird with her sister, some kind of secret from the past that they keep hinting towards. Even though the husband's kind of a loser too and not likable, he's not really there too much. He's not like really a huge part of the story, just like a little bit. But then you also have this lady here who is an unreliable narrator because she's mixing alcohol with her antidepressant medication. You start to wonder, well, is something really weird going on in the house, or is she just like hallucinating these things because of what she's doing? So you get to the final twist, the explanation for what is happening, why, and all of that, and it is just dumb. I feel kind of bad for saying that, but it was just a dumb thing. And right when I had kind of had hints, they drop a few crumbs throughout the book where I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, why would you buy a house that had that feature, or stay in a room that had this particular feature? And that ends up being a part of what was happening. And it was not believable. When I thought that, like the next page, the author explains, oh, it's believable because of this and this and this. I'm like, no, it's still not believable. Like, I understand suspending your disbelief on certain things, you know, I mean, it's obviously all fiction, but still, in order to believe certain things in a book, you have to have other certain things that are correct. Like, you can't have like things kind of based in reality and physics, but then some things not, and not really have a solid reason for that. Overall, I would say it's average writing, and some parts I would say lazy writing, because it seemed like she used cuss words instead of much better descriptive words. Seemed like a lot of missed opportunities for helping to build more of that atmospheric setting. And the cover is pretty. I do love that bright pink and blue, but I don't know if this bothers anybody else, but the house on the outside, it doesn't match how they describe the house on the inside of the book. Don't publishers read the story, or have people that work with them that read the story? I know that the author, I don't think, has much to do with choosing what the cover design is. You'd think you'd want it to match the description of the house in the book, like have the house match the inside and the outside. And what's weird is it's kind of like a significant difference. So yeah, this one, kind of a dud. Wasn't a spooky book like I thought. And I wouldn't even classify, I don't think they classified it as horror, but anyway, it should be like thriller, drama. That's about it. 3-star. Next 3-star, we have a short story collection. These are horror short stories, Haunted and Hungry by A.J. Spencer. It's a short one. I think it's only 45 pages. It's 45 pages. Oh, and I forgot to mention, as I do in Letty fashion, Stranger Upstairs is 268 pages. So back to Haunted and Hungry. These are 5 horror short stories. This is an indie author. The story names are The Dead Man's Mask, Perception, Carnivore, Train Crash, and Walter Whirligig. These are really original, fun, unpredictable stories. I don't think I've read any stories like this. They're really unique ideas. However, I do have quite a major criticism with this. Now, maybe I am a little picky about this, but a lot of misspelled words, and there were words that were capitalized when they shouldn't have been, and then vice versa. There were also words that were missing, and then words that were duplicated, and it was just in serious need of some editing or proofreading. I really want to support indie authors too, and again, really fun, unique stories that I enjoyed reading, but that was distracting. And I feel like if you're gonna sell your things for money, that you should at least do the editing. So I hope that they maybe can revise this, and then I would feel comfortable about recommending it, because it's also such a cool cover. This is like one of my favorite covers, and this has to do with one of the stories in it, which is a really good story. So I don't know, maybe they'll end up fixing it, because unfortunately it did affect my enjoyment overall. My next and last 3-star is We Need to Do Something by Max Booth III, and this is a horror novella. It's a short one, 162 pages. And this is about a deranged, unhinged family that somehow gets trapped and isolated inside their bathroom. There's actually a tornado or tornado warning, get physically trapped in their own bathroom altogether. It's a father, mother, and then I think it's a brother and a sister. Now, this book starts out weird, and it just gets weirder and weirder. It was definitely unpredictable, and the dad cracked me up. Some of the things he said, I could like almost audibly hear it. It was so realistic to what somebody would say in that situation. Now, I will warn you that there is some kind of like weird thing with the pet and animals, not like abuse or cruelty, just something weird. It's a horror novella, so there's just something weird. So I just wanted to warn about that. This one you have to completely suspend your disbelief from beginning to end, but it's entertaining the whole time. Okay, I had to put my jacket on. It was like cold in this room or something. I was like shaking. I felt like it was affecting my voice anyway, so that's why I added the coat. Next up, we have my one and only 3.5-star. This is Lord of the Flies by William Golding. This is a classic adventure story, like a coming of age story. This is 184 pages. Now, in this book, we have a nuclear war that's going on, and we have a group of young boys that was able to escape on a plane. They end up crashing on an isolated island. None of the adults make it, so all you have are these little boys. The oldest, I think, is 12 years old, as young as like 4 years old. Now, they do start out trying to achieve some sort of structure. At least one character, Ralph in particular, really wants this, and he somewhat befriends Piggy, who may be a name you're familiar with, even if you haven't read the book. So Ralph really wants to keep a fire going to create a lot of smoke and to get attention, to get help, and they can use Piggy's glasses, the glass, to light the fires, because they don't know how to light the fire otherwise. And they're supposed to be taking turns, but then they have a somewhat opposing group, Jack, and it's his crew. They basically think that hunting is more important, so they let the fire go out, and so there's this whole battle between letting the fire go out or not. Like I said, some things kind of start out with a little bit of structure. They used a conch shell. to try to have assemblies and discuss things, but then the kids realize that there's no adults around to discipline them for their behavior. There's no consequences to what they do. And so they have this newfound freedom in a way. And then that's when things get really violent. And I'm sure you're all familiar with the pig head on a stick reference. And that represents the Lord of the Flies. It's like another name for the devil or Satan or the beast. There's actually references to a beast on the island, and it's like it represents their fear of the unknown, something they don't understand. And it's also like a reflection of the beast within themselves. It's like they're scared of something external, but they're becoming that same thing too. So yeah, this was a fun reread. You know, this is like a book that they make you read in school, so it was cool to read it as an adult. And then after I read that, I ended up reading a retelling or like another book that was inspired by this. So that made that book even more fun. Next up, we have my 4-star, and this is Meg by Steve Alten, and you may recognize this. This was published in '98, I believe, but it has been turned into movies. I think there's at least a couple of them now. I haven't seen them yet, but I would like to watch at least one of them. I do love sharks, fascinated with them anyway. I mean, that's absolutely terrifying. And I don't know if you could notice, but here, the floaty that she's in, that's actually one of those donuts. Like, that's kind of funny how they put her in a donut that already has a bite taken out of it. That's cute. And this is 195 pages. So in this book, we have someone who used to be a Navy deep sea pilot. Something happened and it made him change the direction of his life, and he ended up becoming a marine paleontologist. And specifically, he was studying the megalodon. And he is convinced that this is no longer something in the past, that this is in the present, and they are 70-foot monsters swimming around at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. So they go there to investigate on a little expedition, and they find out that, yeah, he was right. So it follows them on their adventure. There's a lot of under the water suspense and gore. It's an animal attack book, of course, but I did enjoy reading it, and I would read the second one. The only criticism I would say is, and this is just something in general that I don't like, is repetition. I don't like when something is always mentioned, a specific word or phrase or description. Like if a character is always described with this particular feature, it's so irritating. I don't know, maybe it was also the age in '98, but he would always describe the lady main character. Her name is Terry, and they would always describe her as almond eyes, having almond eyes, and oh, you know, she did something with her almond eyes. It was always her almond eyes. Like, okay, we got it. Oh, okay, I'm back. My camera cut out, the memory filled up, so I had to do a couple things. Now I'm back. I don't know if I mentioned this was 195 pages. So yeah, I would give it a 4-star just because I like sharks and those kinds of thriller stories. However, my one criticism still stands. Sorry, I know that glare from my fairy lights. It always does that because the screen is cracked. But hopefully I'll get a new phone sometime and then I won't have that problem. Okay, so here we go. We're getting into my 4.5 star. This is my 4.5 star. This is Grim Horizons by Andrew Van Wey. These are actually horror short stories, and it's 7 short stories, although I'd say one is more like a novella because it's closer to about 100 pages or so. That one was actually my favorite one. That one's called A Feast of Infinite Rot. I mean, just the title alone is 5 stars, okay? Now, I did read this quite a bit ago, so it's a little hard to remember them specifically besides that one that I just mentioned. And also what I do with the short stories I mentioned in my last video is I'll read a book and then read a short story, read a book and then a short story, and I alternate like that. And that makes it easier, at least for me, to get through the short story book. And then also I still get a little bit of horror in between other genres that I may read. But I did tab a few things in here, so I'll just share with you a few of my favorites. Yes, he heard nothing, no whispers out of time, yet he did sense something, a chill, much like he had felt earlier, as if 1,000 eyes were upon him, and a vague hum, a vibration, as if the world sat upon the taut string of some great lute. The rubber hums, this highway cries, and every 100 miles I see her golden eyes. Your mother, her light falls long upon the desert, twilight, through fingers of yucca and pine, memories entwining. This first step is simple. One must craft a foundation. Life rises out of the simplest of things, amino acids and folded proteins, tide pools and seeds. This afterlife, after all, is no different. A stain of pain, some psychic residue. One must seek out this primeval stew. And last one, let the seasons soak in, long after the flames and the rain. Longer still you remain, you and me, let us become we, the echoes still staining the soil. We will let the vines be our veins, the stones be our bones. We are the silence when all else has moved on. If I didn't say it, 270 pages. Okay, we're getting into my 5-star books. First one is Midnight Companions, and this is issue number 1. They're like little novellas, and this is by Luke Flaherty, and I will link his Instagram below. They just restocked these, issue number 1. Unfortunately, I heard that the shipping to UK is quite expensive. There is a supplier over there, I've heard. However, they don't have them yet. So hopefully, as of now recording, if they don't have them, hopefully they'll have them soon. This one is really good. I just read number 2. That will be in my October wrap up, but we'll talk about this one right now. It is so cute. This is such high quality. I've shown this in a couple of videos so far. My tag video as a hidden gem, and then I also mentioned it in my spooky book recommendations video. So I'll link those below if you haven't seen. And it's really nice paper. It's like this really smooth laminated, and it has these really cool illustrations. Almost on every spread, it has some illustration. Who's the illustrator? Oh, Nathaniel Hebert. So Nathaniel Hebert is the artist. I don't want to show too much, but I just want to give an idea. That's really trippy, kind of like that. Okay, I'm back. Wait, no, that's not right. Okay, I think it cut me off when I was talking about this book. What was I saying? Okay, so in this book, you start out with a group of friends, and they're telling each other scary stories, and they're trying to scare each other. One of those stories is about this creepy abandoned house, and so they go there to continue telling the story. Well, what ends up happening is they then become a part of an actual story that's happening in real life, and then that opens up another story from there as well. So it's almost like a story within a story within a story. It's really fun, and again, the illustrations are awesome, and it's also pretty gross. So if you like how Grady Hendrix is a little gross, I recommend reading this one. And if I didn't mention it, because I probably forgot, 91 pages. And speaking of Grady Hendrix, we have a Grady Hendrix book, Horrörstor, and this is meant to look like a catalog, basically like an IKEA catalog. You have the layout of the store, and it even has what looks like advertisement, so it literally looks like an actual catalog. It even has an order form. Now, this is a really fun twist on your typical haunted house story, which is one of my favorite settings or tropes. I love haunted houses, haunted sunken ship, haunted hotel, whatever. So a haunted furniture store, this is really good, and they really made good use of the store's layout, because just like IKEA and like casinos even, the way they have the layout is meant to kind of disorient you and kind of keep you trapped there. And so he made a really good use of that. It's like the store was its own labyrinth. We follow some of these characters here. One's a manager. We have a couple other employees, a few employees, and there's really weird things that are happening with the store overnight, but they can't ever really catch anything on video. And so they camp out to find out what's going on. Now that, I have a hard time believing. I don't understand why that would be allowed to happen, but I'll play along for the story. So anyway, they end up kind of discovering what's happening, and the store also changes on its own. Features start changing. This was a really fun plot. However, the main character was just a little brat, just not really likable, but I can see why he did it because that attitude ended up playing a role throughout the book. And in true Grady Hendrix fashion, we have some definite gross parts in here. So at work, I always read on my lunch and my snack breaks, and I was eating my oatmeal while I was reading a particular part of this book, and I literally almost lost it. I had to like skim over it and like I'm to come back and read that when I'm not eating this. I do in general love Grady Hendrix's writing. I've read so far just a couple other ones, Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, and I've read My Best Friend's Exorcism. And even though I love vampires, they're one of my favorite supernatural creatures, I have to say that this so far has been my favorite Grady Hendrix book. It's also a nice short little read, 243 pages, and you do have a decent amount of white space here. I just think that this would be fun to have hanging out looking like an actual catalog. Let's see if you want to get it. Actually, this couch is really cute. I would totally get that. My next 5-star book, and this is another all-time favorite from Goldy Moldavsky. If you watched my last wrap-up, her book, The Mary Shelley Club, was a 5-star all-time favorite. It was actually my favorite book of that month. So this is Lord of the Fly Fest, like I said, by Goldy Moldavsky. This is a YA horror. It is 311 pages, and I tabbed quite a bit. I think I tabbed a lot because I had just read Lord of the Flies before this, and so I was tabbing things that were related to Lord of the Flies and differences that I noticed, and different instances of commentary. She makes some commentary on social media and life online versus in real life. That would be the overarching theme and the difference between this and the original Lord of the Flies. So it's like a modernized version. It's like if the Fire Island fiasco actually descended into Lord of the Flies. However, she goes in a different route with it, not just with the social media aspect of it and the commentary on that, but I don't want to spoil anything, but she does something a little different with it while still making plenty of references to the original characters and different things that happen in Lord of the Flies. So in this book, we have a bunch of young adults, teenagers, young 20-somethings. They're all influencers, except for Raffi here, our main character, and she has a podcast. She has a podcast that goes over anything music related. She's there specifically because she wants to basically stalk and interview this one musician because she suspects him of being involved in his girlfriend's mysterious recent disappearance. So anyway, this group of young 20-something influencers get there and they discover that nobody's working there. There's no event attendance or anything like that. Some things are kind of set up, but mostly not. They just find some weird things, and they also don't have cell service. So now, not only can they not call for help or find out what's going on, but they can't post to social media. Well, it turns out that Raffi here, our main character, befriends somebody named Peggy. So like Piggy, so you have Raffi like Ralph, and then Peggy like Piggy. And instead of Peggy having glasses to start the fire like in Lord of the Flies, Peggy has a way to get the Wi-Fi working because she's like some kind of tech wizard, and she actually holds the key to them all getting internet. Well, this gets out, and she's like, okay, I will give you all access to the Wi-Fi on a daily basis, but it will come at a price. And so they all basically just give her whatever they need to in order to get online. However, nobody calls for help or says anything like that. They just act all happy. They act like nothing is wrong. They act like everything is going along as usual. And they do this because they want to save face. They don't want to make it look like they got scammed, like they got duped. And Raffi has a little struggle with this because she initially really wants to ask for help, but then she's like, well, this is the perfect opportunity. I'm here. And now that we don't have as many distractions and all these different events and, concerts going on, I can actually talk to him and find out what happened with him and his girlfriend if he's involved. Because she's like, I want to have a little crossover of true crime and a music podcast a little bit. So she gets kind of obsessed about this guy. Because she's so set on talking to him, she ends up not wanting to really call for help either. So they all just kind of stay there, and weird things happen because they kind of have to wing things. Like, they still have to act like everything normal's going on, but there's no huge sets going on. They don't have like the bar and the food set up like as they normally would, so they're having to be creative. This book is hilarious. I didn't realize that it was a more humorous kind of book. The Mary Shelley Club, that was funny and a more quiet, like a dark humor way, which this is dark humor as well. But there were times where I actually laughed out loud quite a few times. So if you want something kind of silly and fun, but still related to a classic that you may know, I would really suggest this one. And I will just say that I will never think of Bronzer in the same way ever again. Okay, I think the lights warmed me up a little bit, so took the coat off. Anyway, we're on my last book, 5-star all-time favorite. This one is a psychological thriller, and it kind of surprised me. I knew I was going to like it, but I didn't realize how much. While I was reading it, I was also like, oh, how do I feel about this book? I did take a lot of notes, which really helped. That book is How Can I Help You by Laura Sims. That's so cool. I love that cover. And this is a nice short little thriller at 237 pages. I read this so fast. I think I read it in maybe a couple days. And I would have read it faster, but I had other things to do. Like I said, I took a lot of notes. What I do is I just have some post-its that I put in here and I number them so I keep track. Just keep going as much as I need to. And then in addition to that, I have, oh, can you see? There we go. I have the orange and yellow tabs to match the fire on the outside there. So the orange represents a certain kind of thing and the yellow represents another one. And I did open this video with a quote from this book. That's where that's from. So in this book, we start out following a librarian, and that's not actually what her career used to have been. She used to do something else, and she has moved away to a smaller town, and she started over in a new life. And this also has to do with her meeting another librarian who ends up working there, and it's about their kind of cat and mouse relationship. Now, I would recommend not really looking up the synopsis because I read it without doing that, and that was a lot better to read it and just discover things on my own along the way. So I'll try to talk about it in a way that will help you decide if you would enjoy it as well without, spoiling anything. So we have Margot, the main character, and she is a complex character. She does some pretty weird things. Just like, why are you doing that? And it becomes more so when Patricia, that's how they pronounce her name in the book. Patricia, once they meet, they get tangled in each other. They're both somewhat obsessive people. They're in their own way for different reasons. They kind of get intertwined with each other. And it just gets more and more disturbed. This is definitely like a slow burn psychological thriller. There's a lot of symbolism that has to do with fire, of course, and water. And this back and forth tension keeps escalating until we hit this crescendo at the end, and it surprised me. It wasn't what I was expecting to have happen. I would personally love to see a prequel for this book because the psychology behind why the main character is the way she is, and then Patricia on a smaller scale, but I think it would just be really cool to see a prequel on Margot, the main character. Now, the reason why I said not to read any more about the synopsis or the inner flap or anything like that is that for me, it really helped build the tension and the self-discovery of certain things. And I have not mentioned certain things in my review specifically for that reason. Another thing, actually, that I just remembered that I liked about this book is there is a huge reference and mention of one of my 5-star all-time favorite books. And I won't say what that book is because it's kind of fun to discover that on your own. There's a scene where there's a character looking at this book, and then the other character discovers them doing this, and it kind of becomes a thing in the book. So I thought that was really fun, and if that book is also one of your favorites, then I think you would really enjoy that part. Alright guys, that will do it for my September wrap-up. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to all the repeat viewers and the new viewers and all the comments. I love discussing books and other fun things with you in the comments. And if you like the video, if you can please give it a thumbs up, I'd really appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you would like to, then I will be posting weekly videos. My next video is going to be my October wrap-up, and then I have a few tag videos. And then I have a haul video to do. Yes, that's right. Did I just do an unhaul? Yes, I did, but you know, this is months at a time here. This is like 3 months at least worth. So that's okay, you know? And if you made it this far, please leave a fire emoji in the comments to represent my favorite book of the month. How can I help you? And I hope you're all getting in some last minute spooky reads before Halloween, and we'll see you in the next one.